have a conversation as we had built the evening proceedings. So I want to talk a little on the topic, God is not an option, but of necessity. God is not an option, but of necessity. And so the conversation promised to, it's a conversation. It's really a conversation that I really want us to have. So I will be providing some information, and I trust that the information being provided will cause us to, do some introspection, as a church, as a people. So there's a whole lot of things that are happening, and so we want to start the conversation this evening. God is not an option, but of necessity. So that's our main theme. But equally, we're going to be looking at what's transpiring in our world as it relates to the millennium as well as the Gen Zs. So there's a whole lot of things that is happening, and I have some information that I want to share with you this evening. I use as a key text Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 9 and 10. Ecclesiastes chapter 11 and verses 9 and 10. And it reads from the ESV, the English Standard Version. And it says, "Young people, enjoy your youth. Be happy while you're still young." Listen for me. So, let me go again. Young people, enjoy your youth. Be happy while you're still young. Do what you want to do and follow your heart's desire. But remember that God is going to judge you for whatever you do. Don't let anything worry you or cause you pain. You aren't going to be young very long. So can we do that again? All right. So it says, young people, enjoy your youth. The wise man Solomon, in his writing of the book Ecclesiastes chapter 11, I'm at verse 9 and 10, and I told you I'm reading from the ESV, and it says, young people, enjoy your youth. Be happy while you are still young. Do what you want to do and follow your heart's desire. But remember that God is going to judge you for whatever you do. Don't let anything worry you or cause you pain. You aren't going to be young very long. I also want to move on to another reading, and this comes from the book of Peter. I am at 1 Peter chapter 5, and looking at verse 5 to 9. Oh, incident, I gave you a wrong version of the Bible that was just read a while ago from Ecclesiastes 11. I read from the Good News translation and not the ESV as previously stated. I'm now reading from the ESV, 1 Peter 5:5-9, and it reads, Likewise, you who are younger, be judged. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility toward one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Verse 6 says, Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him, because he cares for you. It says, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kind of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout. Oh, something just missing from my text here. So again, I just want to pause to welcome those who have just joined us online, and Tony and who is here with us, and Dave and Javel, Kenroy, and is unavoidable absent this evening. So I want to welcome everyone online. Thank you for joining us. Please share the page with your friends, your family. So what you need to do, just hit the share icon on the screen, copy the link, paste it into your WhatsApp group or your whatever group you're using. So we want you to share the page. So we're talking about God is not an option. Instead, God is of necessity. God is not an option. God is of necessity. No matter what we all experience, challenging times, but have you ever noticed how often we ask God for help almost at a last resort after we have explored all our options? Why are we not seeking God's help first with confidence and with joy rather than look for solutions on our own until we exhaust ourselves? Let me read that again. No matter what, we all experience challenging times. But have you ever noticed how often we ask God for help almost at the last resort after we have explored all our options? If everybody were to be honest, myself and everybody were to be honest with ourselves, all of us could attest to the fact that we often seek to do what we want to do first, and then when we start to experience the challenges, then we run to God for help. I find it too that very often we seek to, treat God like a last resort. He's the last person, to be consulted. So the question is asked, why are we not seeking God's help first? with the full confidence and with joy rather than look for solutions on our own until we exhaust ourselves? Have you ever heard someone make the kind of statement, I have done everything I can. The only thing left to do is to pray? Have you ever heard that, seen that, or even yourself? Have you ever made that kind of declaration? I have done everything I can. The only thing left is to pray. Okay? So we've all prayed, or we've all, made the statement, at some point in time in our lives. And we sometimes just never sought God's will or His direction, prior to making certain decisions. You know that some of the decisions that we make, had we consulted God, we wouldn't have made those decisions, We wouldn't have made those decisions. And so sometimes we stumbled. We find ourselves in some situation just because we did not consult God at the initial stage, and then we found ourselves with our back against the wall. So I would say to us, before we make, any kind of decision, let us consult the Lord first. If we don't do that, then we treat Him as if He is not an option. But I want to declare before we even get into the conversation, and yes, it's a conversation, that God is indeed a necessity, or is very necessary in our lives. God should not be treated as an option. Now, 1 Peter chapter 5 reads, and we did it earlier, but just for emphasis, it says, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that He may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxiety on Him. He cares for you. In an article that states in an article that states the state of the church 2020 in faith and Christian. The article was written on the 23rd of July 2020, and it states, since COVID-19 and the nation's response to the pandemic have disrupted daily lives in the United States, and obviously this is a United States document. So what I'm about to tell you, the statistics I'm about to provide, it comes from the USA, because here in Jamaica, we're trying to establish the needs, all right? And the needs would have provided us with the requisite data. We're not even sure how many people we have in Jamaica. There is still speculation in terms of how many people we have. Some people say 3 million, some people say 2.7, 2.6. But our information, our record is not really accurate. So we can't even, with certainty, speak of certain data unless it's an official study done by, say, Statin or PIOJ or so on. So in the article dated July 23, 2020. It says, since COVID-19, the nation's response to the pandemic have disrupted daily life in the USA. And the study was done by Barner. The study was done by a group called Barner, and they say data show that churchgoers across the country have been rethinking their routine, either Sunday morning, Sabbath morning experience. It says, as of May 20, 2020, during the initial peak of social distancing measures, nearly half of the churched adults had been streamed online services in the past 4 weeks. This was a study was done May 2020. And 1 in 3 practicing Christians had simply stopped attending church during the COVID-19. 1 in every 3, Sister Carl. So there is 3. 1 in every 3 practicing Christians, okay, stop attending church during the COVID-19. Some of these members may attest to the role physical community play in encouraging regular church attendance and engagement. Like faith leaders around the country, we've been asking, what do Christians value most in their weekly worship experience? And are these perhaps some of the things that are difficult to replicate in a digital service? One aspect of the new Sunday or Sabbath morning that has largely been impacted by social distancing guideline is group expression of worship, like corporate worship, singing, or taking communion for those who take communion on a Sunday morning. And so the article will take a look at some pre-COVID data to illuminate the worship styles and preferences of believers across generational, denominational, and ethnic lines. 62% of elders prefer traditional worship. 62% of elders prefers traditional worship. Only 38% of millennials say the same. And so the bulk of the conversation this evening, will zero in on the millennials, the Gen Zs, what is happening in that demographic, the millennials demographic, the Gen Zs demographic, and how these two groups of people are defining or reshaping the landscape of the world, either from a political perspective, a spiritual perspective, a physical, a psychological perspective. There is this powerful demographic called the millennials and the Gen Zs. They are the power brokers of today. So I want to bring a perspective on the Gen Zs and the millennials and how they are redefining the workplace, what they are saying, the latest statistics coming out of the United States Bureau of Labor. What is happening in America? What's happening in China? What's happening in France, in the UK, in Germany? I want to provide you with, some real data, what's happening in these jurisdictions and how it will impact or how it is impacting us here in Jamaica, the Caribbean, and across the world. So listen to this. It says 62% of elders prefer traditional worship. 62%, How many percent did I say? 62% of elders prefer traditional worship. Only 38% of the millennials say the same. 38%, okay? Worshipping through music and song is part of nearly every Christian tradition and worship service. But styles of music vary across generational, cultural, and denominational lines, just to name a few. In early 2020, Barna, the group that did the research, asked practicing Christians what sort of music they prefer. Multiple choices were allowed and including everything from a liturgical to lively. Perhaps unsurprisingly though, some of the most notable differences are found among the different age group. When compared to other generations, elders like myself and you, Sister Coral and Sister Ermin, who they will call elder, Antonian and Javel, they are the millennials. All right, so they refer to us as elder. In fact, for our international audience who are online, in Jamaica, in our inner city, if you reach 25 and 27, you're referred to Tonian as an elder. I don't know if you reach that age, Tonian. But if you are, you're an elder. So, in the inner city, some inner cities, the tough inner cities here in Jamaica, once you're 25, 27, you're considered an elder, which means, you're old, you're getting up in age. Nobody really take too much talk from you because you're elder, 25, and 27, right? So, Sister Carl, myself, and you, we'll refer to like elder. And I'll be an elder now. Tomorrow, I celebrate another birthday, so I'm really elder. June, man. June is the best month. What month about Tony and June too? August. 2nd of June, man. Yeah, man. Me and my brother Oral, I celebrate birthday tomorrow. So, perhaps unsurprisingly, some of the most notable differences are found among different age groups when compared to other generations. Elders are the most likely to choose him. And it says 66% of elders choose him. So like somebody like me now who writes the program every Sabbath, you would notice, you'll see a lot of hymns or some hymns. But we have our praise team, the demographic of our praise team are primarily like Jody and Sutania, they are the millennials, young people. And even in the congregation, some of our young people really don't know the hymns because they see hymns as, old thing, But can I tell you, the hymns are so beautiful. I love the hymns. The hymns are beautiful. But the data shows that the majority of people who are for the hymns are the elders like ourselves, right? And 45% of the boomers like the hymn. Now, the Gen X or the Gen Z is about 19%, of that demographic. Or the millennials, about 19% of them, are into hymns and that kind of thing. So, fundamental or primarily this evening, I want to address the issue of what's happening in our world from a millennial, Gen Z baby boomer and elders' perspective, where the world is heading, what is going to happen to a church. The church is now forced to make some adjustment. The church cannot allow to continue in the vein that it's in. Even so, more now than ever, seeing that it is said that we are now living in the post-Christian era. I did say earlier that this generation of young people are defining the landscape, even from a church perspective. They're defining the landscape. So permit me to tell you about the Gen Zs and the millennials. So what ages are the Gen Z? So the Gen Z and the Gen Z stands for generational, or Generation Z, is the newest generation born between 1997 and say 2012 into 2015. So they are currently between the age of 6 and 24 years old. And I did say that, we are still in the process as a young democracy. We have not yet fully digitized, what we have in Jamaica. The pandemic has now forced us to be ramping up our, the digital world here in Jamaica. In fact, I read of a study maybe about 5 years ago that indicated that in America, it's only 7% of the population in America do cash transaction. 93% of Americans strictly use their cards online to do their transaction. And that was high in comparison to, say, a country like Sweden. In Sweden, only 3% of the population in Sweden really use hard currency, dollar. Everybody use their card, So either you swipe a card or you do online shopping or online transaction, pay your bills online and so on and so on. Now, Jamaica is moving into that space. We're very slow off the mark, but I believe that we will get there. So during the pandemic, last year, the government of Jamaica gave back money or had a stimulus where they were, offering its citizens cash to aid them during the pandemic and so on. Would you believe that the Ministry of Finance about 2 or 3 weeks ago was still advertising for people to come in? I think they say between $200 or $300 million uncollected. And this money and this demographic and these people are from the lower end of the socio-economic strata. One of the reasons why some of these funds are not yet collected is because people don't have an ID. So what the government is doing is cutting out the middleman, the corruption, the theft, the fraud. So I could go down to the NIS office to say, I'm Javal Thorpe, but I'm really Dion Mitchell. And I could produce a fake ID. What they're now doing is that they are sending it directly to your bank account. No, it's go directly to your bank account. So no, you can't send anybody to collect the money for you. Again, we're getting beyond that. So, but a large percent of our population, of our people in Jamaica don't own a bank account. Don't have a bank account. So that was one of the problems, that we're facing. So we're saying now, with what is happening in the world today, everybody has to get with it. Everybody now needs a bank account because there are several banks, Bank of Nova Scotia, the NCB banks, among other banks, are not using cash again. So gone were the days when you could have gone into an NCB bank or going into a Scotia bank and withdraw money from over the counter. They no longer do that. They don't handle cash. So if you have your cash and you're going to deposit or you want to withdraw, use the ATM. So Jamaica is moving into that digital age. And incidentally, the NIDS bill was being debated in the House today. So we really need the NIDS, even though there are some people who are of the view that we don't need the NIDS, that the NIDS is no mark of the beast. Lie. Every time some numbers come up, people say it's mark of the beast. The NIDS is no mark of the beast. They said it with the TRN, it's no mark of the beast. They said it with the vaccine, it's no mark of the V. All right? No mark of the beast. So I was telling you now that the Gen Zs, or the Generation Z, that age cohort is between persons born between 1997 and 2015, or currently anybody who is between the age of 6 and 24-year-old is called the Gen Z. I'm pulling some data from US, and this data, the study was done on the 13th of January 2021, which is this year. And it shows that in America, the American population has 68 million people who are between the age group of 6 and 24-year-old, okay? Now, so the Generation Z, or better known as Zoomers, is that demographic cohort who are now succeeding the millennials and preceding the Generation Alpha. Researchers and popular media use the mid to late 90s as a starting birth year and the early 20s to determine, this demographic. Now, when we talk about this evening, the millennials, what are we talking about? So the millennials are those persons who were born between 1980 and more specific, 1981 and beyond. So the millennials are those born between 1981 and 96 and beyond, according to the Pew Research Center. Millennials, also known as Generation Y. So there's Generation Z, which is 6 to 24. Some people define the Generation Z as 6 to about 17. But this study is looking at the Generation Z as 6 to 24. And the millennials, which is the Generation Y, this group goes up to about 40, age 40. And these are the people. And I'm going to provide you with the statistics in terms of where they lie. So the Generation Y, which is the millennial, these persons were born, say, 1991. They are now currently between the age of 25 and 40. So between the age of 25 and 40 years old in the United States, we don't have the figure for Jamaica, but in the United States of America, according to Pew and Barna research, January 2021, 72.1 million Americans fall within the age group of 25 to 40 years old. 71. I think it is said that the American population is 300 million or little over 300 million. I think they're now doing census. But I really don't think they pass about 320 million. I didn't seek to abreast myself before coming here. So between the ages of 25 and 40 years old in America, they have 72.1 million people within this age cohort. the generation Y, Gen Y, between the ages of 25 to 29-year-old in America, there is 31 million people. 31 million people between the age of 25 and 29 years old. Generation Y again, or the millennials, between the ages of 29 and 39 years old, in the United States of America, there's 42 million people. Okay? 42 million people. The Gen Z, 6 to 24 or 6 to 18, 17, which one of the scales you prefer to use, is referred to as the newest generation, okay? They are currently 68 million people within this demographic in the United States. A simple math that I did indicated that in America there are 213.1 million people living, in this age category in America. 213.1 million, which means 213,100,000 people living in America between the ages of 6 and 40. If my assumption is correct, that within the American population is, say, 300 million, or 36 or 35, if my memory serves, it simply means that the majority of people living in America will fall between 6 and 40, and say, if I say for argument's sake, about 80 million people beyond the age 40. I hope you can now have an appreciation of what I am saying, that this demographic is what is making the decision. Because 80 million, 213 million versus 80 million. Can you just imagine? And I want to believe that the same perhaps obtain here in Jamaica. So let me put it in perspective. The point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is this group of people are now shaping to be the movers and shakers of society across the world. Therefore, the church will now have to position itself to evangelize this group of people, provide pastoral leadership for this group of people, cater to the spiritual need for this group of people. It therefore means that the church will now have to evaluate how the church does church. Because, some people may say, well, you're spoiling these people. They are the movers and shakers. This is where the world is heading. All right? It doesn't only confine to America, but the same study found that people born after 1981 are called, so the people who were born after 1981 are referred to as the digital generation. Church has to find a way to cater to this digital generation. If we come to church and so live streaming is now the way forward. It has to be. Thank God we started it, not gloating prior to COVID. But this is the way, We had earmarked some funds to install cameras, Javel. We got a quotation from overseas, the USA, to install some cameras in the church to aid in our live streaming. So we're going to put cameras all over so Kenroy or Javel could just sit with there instead of Kenroy to move. What that thing name again? Tripod? So instead of Kenroy or Javel moving the tripod around to show what's happening in the congregation, we were going to install cameras around so Kenroy or Javel from the computer, excuse me, could click to say, all right, let's zero in on this side, let's zero in on that side, or whichever side. And we got a quotation for $500. A $500? How much we get it for again? I don't remember now. Huh? So $500. We secure the funding. And we just procrastinate. You know, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I take the full responsibility. And you know what happened? Here comes the pandemic. And the same camera, we were buying 5 cameras, almost maybe $600, $700, thereabouts. One of the cameras now. In fact, the camera that we want to get now costs how much again? $1,800, $2,000 US dollar. Why? Because everybody is now streaming live. You know, not just Jamaica, but across the world. The price of laptop has shot up. There's a shortage of laptop and tablets in the world because everybody is now online. And we are struggling now because we need a camera. And we need it, you know, if we had bought it before the pandemic, and nobody knew that the pandemic would have come. So I'm just showing you where the world is. So we're moving now to one camera for almost $2,000 with the accessories and so on. So the point I'm making is that the digital age is here to stay. And the church has to find a way to cater to the digital or the online or in the virtual space. Because I hope I can finish tonight, because I really want to finish this conversation. It shows that more people are now willing to stay home in the virtual worship space than going back to church. So just as how I'm going to provide with some data where people in the United States, I saw a report on CNN, and I have a report here as well, where people don't want to go back to work in the office. Everybody, the millennial and the Gen Z want to stay home and work instead of going back into the office. The older fellows want them to come back, but this demographic is saying we prefer to work from home. So the experts are now saying that between now and August, there's going to be an employment crisis in the USA. The US economy is rebounding, it's doing well. But there's going to be a crisis in terms of job, because people are now willing to walk out of their job, leave their job. So they're saying, you know, we prefer to quit our jobs, find a next job than going back to the office. So the church has to now position itself, find a way to position itself. And it doesn't mean that we are watering down the gospel, you know. No. But we have to find different method. So the people who were born 1981, beyond 1981, I'll call the digital generation, they are no longer interested in working full-time in offices and are vastly more tech-savvy than any generation before them. The Born Digital Effect features insights gleaned from 1,000 business leaders and 2,000 knowledge workers in 10 countries, attempting to gain a better understanding of people born in an era inundated by technology. Jair, my last son, Jair is 3 years old. Jair. Jair is what you call Jair born with a phone in his hand. Just like your daughter Mish and Anelia. These children are born with phone in their hands. If I were to tell you that Jair, KDB has a phone name, what KDB phone name again? Note 8. That's all? Or Note 10? Some phone. Note 10. Jair, at 3 years old, takes up his mother's phone. He knows how to turn it on. The front of this phone, it has no button on it. He knows how to take it out, to turn it on. He goes on YouTube at 3 years old, and he finds what he wants on YouTube at 3 years old. Jair goes on his mother's phone, Facebook page, and he go into gallery and post pictures of his mother on Facebook at 3 years old. So I hear his mother, my wife KDB, calling with Jair, a 3-year-old, to say, I'm going to stop lending him my phone. I'm going to stop giving him my phone. Because I keep telling you, do not post my pictures on Facebook at 3-year-old. So these children are born with the technology. So in a little from now, when we come to church and preach, you're going to find it boring. We have to look at the methodology, right? So listen to what the data says now. So 1,000 business leaders and 2,000 knowledge workers in 10 different countries. Here are the countries. Respondents were based in France, in Germany, the Netherlands, the UK, Mexico, the United States, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, China, India, and Japan, while focusing primarily on those working in the financial services, healthcare, technology, manufacturing sector, and so on. This group of people, I say, they really don't want to go back to work in any office space. They want to work at home. So they examined these 2,000 people across these 10 different countries. Of the 2,000 surveyed, 750 were members of the Gen Z. That's the up to 24-year-old, 17, 24-year-old who are working. And 1,250 of this demographic surveyed in these 10 countries were millennials. So they're between, say, 25 and 40 years old. They look at economic models and so on. And the two population, which is the Gen Z and the millennial, both are saying that they do not want to go back to pre-COVID lifestyle in terms of going back to work in the office space. Not only the office, I'll come up with the church too, because I did indicate to you that there are people who are saying that they are now comfortable worshiping at home online and do not want to go back to church. Right? The survey found that 87% of the responders are focused primarily on career stability. So this group of people are now are career driven, career stability, security, and a healthy work-life balance. In fact, the studies show that they don't even want to work 5 days a week anymore. They are now saying, okay, we are willing to work 4 days per week. Can you imagine? 4 days per week. And so the survey shows now that of the overall group, 90% of responders have no interest in returning to office work full-time once the pandemic is fully over. no interest in going back to the office. Millennials are the group every church is trying to reach. And that's where I want to go, why I provide you with that. This is the demographic that every church is trying to reach, the millennials. Gen Z and millennial are sometimes used interchangeably, right? So the millennials are the group every church is trying to reach, but not always successfully done so. Using the statistics about the millennials help you to better understand who they are and what they want from the church, because they're very demanding. You know, the millennials. If you know, the young people are hard to find, and hard to please sometimes, with due respect. And, you know, I think I have a notation, maybe it's on my phone, that says the older generations are of the view that the millennials, which is the younger people, have this kind of entitlement perspective. They feel as if, the study show, not me, the study show that they feel as if they are entitled. They're fragile in terms of, not that, let me qualify, fragile in the sense that you have to be careful how they are spoken to, their egos. They're fragile because they are of the view that they have options. They don't need to come to, I don't have to come to church to worship, and everything is relative, which I initially wanted to talk about tonight, but that can be done at some other point in time. And because of the option and the thinking, some older people are of the view that this demographic believe that there's this entitlement. The demographic is peeved with the older generation to say you're labeling us. We don't have this sense of entitlement. We just state what we want. So, millennials are the group every church is trying to reach, but not always successful. Using statistics about the millennials help you to better understand who they are and what they want from a church, despite being a generation that may have been raised in church. Listen to this. Many of them have quit attending church. Is that your experience? Don't you notice too? That a lot of people who you say born and grow and raised in church, what happened? They quit attending church. However, they are growing up now and have families of their own. Listen, if you want to reach an even younger generation, it all starts with the millennials. Their views on the world are changing things. What did I say? The millennial views of the world, of politics. Look in America, Black Lives Matters. Who is at the forefront? The fight of the Black Lives Matters in America, in Canada, in England, in Germany. We even have Black Lives Matters here in Jamaica, can you imagine? Right? The young people, they are changing the landscape of the world, believe me. So if you want to reach an even younger generation, it all started with the millennials. Their views on the world are changing things, much like every generation before them, and so on and so on. It's easy to get caught up in believing all millennials are atheists. Not all of them are atheists. It's a common myth that may make you feel, like there's no point in trying to reach them. However, over half of the millennials do identify that they have their religious preference and so on. Listen to this bit of statistics from the Pew. It says 56% of Christians with evangelical, of the group, 56% identify themselves as Christians, with evangelical, Protestant, and Catholic being the most common. 8% prefer a non-Christian faith, such as Jewish or Muslim. 36% are affiliated, but only 6%. So there's a 6% of the group that they are atheists. Among the unaffiliated millennials, there are 9% still say religion is important to them. 50% of millennials believe in God with absolute certainty. 30% believe in God, but with varying amounts of uncertainty. 17% say they don't believe at all, much lower than what you may have expected. 39% say they pray on a daily basis, and 18% say they pray on a weekly basis. Now, what is going to be the church's response to what is happening in the world? How is it that the church is going to position its... Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead. You can handle the mic, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I enjoyed your reading, Pastor.
Thank you.
Thank you for this intriguing topic.
Yes.
But one of the questions that I have to ask, especially for our churches in Jamaica,
Right.
if we have not reached the point where persons in the church, both young and old, don't accept persons wanting to wear makeup and wait.
Persons who what? I'm sorry, I just didn't get that point.
No.
Yes. Your mic is on? Try again.
I'm saying,
Yes. 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 You can fix the mic, so I figured that our friends online, they're not hearing. I was going to just paraphrase, but Javel is coming. I'm very sorry, Poochie. Just say that again because we're streaming through the system, so the persons were not hearing. Yes. Yes. Right. Yes. Yes. Seductive spirit. Wow. Yes. Wow. Yes. Mm. Right. Right. She has a seductive. Yes. Right. Right. Are we? Right. Yeah. Yes. 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 Right. From a Christian. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Check.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're going to answer Pooja. I hope friends online you were hearing. But Pooja was asking, I mean, Sister Bailey. Pooja was asking, was saying, how is the church is going to make the adjustment to facilitate, accommodate persons who wear makeup and extension of the hair and pants and jewelry. How the church is going to deal with technology if the church cannot handle or deal with people who wear makeup and so on. And you're saying that somebody that man you know posted online this evening that she does what? Have an extension here? She's braided? Or she wear braids and makeup and she was singing a gospel song and she's been bashed to say she's what? Seductive spirit. Well, let me tell you something. You know, everyone knows my position. The Church of God Seventh Day Jamaica Conference has a position as it relates to dress code, wearing a hair, processing a hair, women wearing pants, people wearing jewelry. It is no secret that the Ministerial Council of the Church of God Seventh Day have gone through numerous studies and have concluded that from a biblical perspective, there is nothing in Scripture to say that a woman should not wear pants and that people should not wear jewelry. There is a committee of which I'm a proud member that is called the Modesty Committee. And that committee is on a drive, an education campaign where we're going around to the different zones and bringing a perspective to the general membership of the Church of God Seventh Day, what the church's new position is. It is not yet passed, but it is something that is coming. There's nothing wrong if a woman wears pants. Nothing. There's nothing in bad. In fact, it was women who first started wearing pants. There's nothing wrong if somebody wears jewelry. The church is going to one day have to make the adjustment. The ministerial council signed off on it. There is a public education campaign. So the Modesty Committee is now putting in the guidelines to say, when we get to that place, and the church is saying that a woman is not going to be sanctioned anymore if she pierces her ears. The Modesty Committee is saying, when that time comes, don't sew it. You know what I mean? Don't sew it. Just be modest. When the time comes, we don't expect to see Javal coming with a big coat chain. You understand me? And the man knows Mr. T. Everybody knows Mr. T. Remember that show? What I show the name again? The AT, Mr. T. We don't expect Javal to come with a big coat chain on him neck. We not expect no sister to come in with no chain, no anklet. We're saying no anklet. Did I tell you about the pastor who was preaching in a particular place? I would have told you off camera, man, because when they're on camera, I can't tell you where. The pastor was preaching one Sabbath or teaching. An unsaved person, Tonian, a young lady from the community, Randy, visited church. She walked in with her anklet. Pastor changed the sermon. And someone will come in here with a chain on a big old dirty foot. No. How are you going to win people over to Christ in that kind of, out of order, crude manner? So when the time comes, our conference is saying, whilst we believe that women should wear free-to-wear pants and jewelry, the church is not encouraging our women to wear anklet. The church is not encouraging our women to pierce both of them body, and men too, because some man board and tongue too. You know that? Yeah, man pierce them tongue too. So no piercing a tongue, no piercing a nose, navel, right up a sorry name, the eye something, and no other part of the body. Right or wrong? And what not talk to me, right or wrong? All right. So the church has to position itself, Puji, for 21st century. The church has to position itself that we cannot do church like what obtained 10 years ago, 15 years ago. With due respect, our leaders and the Church of God Seventh-day Jamaica Conference has a policy where all our leaders are trained. We have our internal training institute headed by Pastor Jacobs. If you're going to be a leader within the church, you have to be trained. With due respect, the time has now come where I see Javel just walk in and him come and preach a hot sermon, hot. And then after him preach a hot sermon, have everybody at the altar, you call him and ordain him as pastor when he has no leadership skill, no people skill, no leadership skill, no form of training. When we have our young people coming out of university and doing courses in philosophy and come to challenge you as a leader, I agree that the Holy Spirit can help you to navigate, provide the requisite answer and so on. But our leaders, with due respect, and people aspiring for leadership have to be trained. Pastor Jacobs, when I attended the school in 2001, said, in 2002 or thereabout, says, you have to have the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in one hand. Leaders have to be relevant. You have to know what's happening in the street, on the street, in the world, and then you make a correlation. You look at what's happening in the world, and you come and you tell your people. There's no slang out there that I don't know. Because if you want to be in a position of where you know what's happening, so you can educate your people. The millennials, the young people are not taking what we put up with growing up in the church. They're not willing to do that. And it doesn't mean that they are not saved. They just have a different perspective. You know what I mean? So the days are over when the church sit down and talk about here, nails, drills, and we're not talking about issue. These people want to speak about issues, not get caught up in petty things. The day is done where people come to church and you have clique and malice and this. There's something to cut out to them. There's something they're done with long time. The days are coming to an end where people go to church on a Sabbath or on a Sunday and it's a war zone because pastor and deacon and talk and all kind of something. War zone. I hear some people go to church. A war zone. Is worship become a church of worship? And after church done worship, not even play some domino. Put your hand up. I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you. So, in light of this, Pastor, what is the Church of God Seventh Day doing or is going to do in order to educate, as I said, young and old? Because there are young people in our conference that bashes other young people because they don't dress like them or they don't look like them. I appreciate the Modesty Committee because the Modesty Committee has taken the initiative to study the Bible and allow the Lord to lead them. Because, as you said, how are we going to win souls? But not only win souls, how are we going to keep the ones that we have? We can't keep them if, when they decide, like myself, I don't like black hair.
What?
And when I rinse my hair in burgundy, what is going to happen when somebody comes in a burgundy hair and a sister is going to look at them and say, boy, me love one, me I love the bad one and the good one, them too. Those things, and as you said, persons may say this generation is very entitled. They're also very thin-skinned. And
you're speaking on behalf of the generation of which you're a part.
Oh Lord, we are not all the same.
I'm just checking.
But it is just the truth. Some things are really, I can give a prime example. It was my birthday one year and I decided I wanted to do my nails. And Omar would always tell me, I like to see your nails in red because of the complexion of your skin. So I did my nails in red and I did my hair and I just felt nice. So we went to this church event and that church sister that I love her so dearly, I saw her and I walked through the crowd just to go to her and give her a hug. And the first thing she said to me was, Lord God, when you turn back.
Wow.
You need to come back to Christ, man. I want him to cloud out upon your hand.
So I need to carry out the cement and baptize you.
No. Well, I would say, sure, I just know, so she said, there are young persons in the church that would really break their spirits. What are we going to do as the Church of God Seventh Day to not only advance ourselves technologically, but to also teach persons in the church how to deal with people? While it is important for the leaders to know how to deal with the different type of persons, people in the church need to understand themselves, need to understand that, yes, while we're all humans and we have our flaws, it is not okay to intentionally hurt someone's feelings for all the days of your life while you're in church. You have to make a change and you have to become better at some point in time.
Yes. All right. So I hear and I understand, but we have to be tolerant and patient with persons. Remember, there are a lot of people who grew up in the church on the premise that processing the hair, wearing pants and jewelry, wearing makeup, whatever, is sin. And so for the church to make a 360 degree, make a turn to say, having studied, we've now revised our position, because I think our constitution or something says we're an open creed, which means that we can go back, look at any topic, revised our position. We still have to be patient with a group of persons who grew up, could not process the hair, could not color the hair, could not cut the hair, could not wear pants, could not wear lip gloss. I'm not even talking about the red one, lipstick. Lip gloss, right? Could not do certain things. So we have to be patient with them. We have to educate them that this is what we have studied. This is a biblical and a sound position, and help them to understand. And even so, we have to we have to appreciate people, Puche. It's going to take some time for us to, as a church, get where we want to. But we've been struggling with this here, Pans, Jewelry, Holy Spirit thing for a number of years. We've put to bed the whole issue of Holy Spirit and so on. Put to bed means that we have resolved the differences and so on. And now we are coming closer in resolving the issues of pants and jewelry and makeup. Those things do not define your salvation. And there is a high level of hypocrisy that plays out in church. I have seen, Deon Orville Mitchell, I've seen people who are staunch supporters or believers that women shouldn't wear pants and this. And them go a foreign, they don't even reach Uncle Sam. By the time they reach an airport, they wear pants. Or if they don't put on the pants in Jamaica, by the time they reach Uncle Sam, their first change of clothes is pants. But in Jamaica, my God, they're gonna kill you. And so there's a hypocrisy. And so they migrate to first world countries, and they and their wives or their friends, or if they have no wife or no friend. So much people used to hit out against pants and jewelry and so on, but them that are foreign are wearing. And when you ask them, oh, it's a different culture. So if it's a different culture in Jamaica, also God designed that Jamaica culture, if you wear pants and jewelry, you sin. But if you wear it in overseas, you don't sin. So it's just a lot of hypocrisy. And some of our best singers, the Tasha Cobbs that you've mentioned, those persons are well decked out in their jewelry and everything, and sing them song and people get out in a spirit.
So would you then say, Pastor, in the same way that we have a modesty committee, we need committees to address some of these issues that we're having in the church? The reason why I ask this is because, yes, we're trying to address issues, but as you said, we've been at these issues for a number of years. The world is not waiting for us. And pardon me for saying, I feel as if we're stuck in this one place going over the same thing over and over again. And you find young persons going to different churches, and even if they don't feel comfortable leaving the Church of God Seventh Day, when they leave church on a Sabbath, during the week or on a Sunday, they watch different pastors and different services so that they can be edified by something else apart from hearing about what they wear. For example, we now like to wear mantelas. And I remember going to a youth convention, and the keynote speaker was preaching about the daily on our head.
About the what?
Daily. Apparently, they're not comfortable with our mantelas.
What do you mean by daily?
You know, daily, the little things that our grandparents used to put on the furniture.
Oh, what them call them again?
Daily.
What do you call it?
Some persons call them daily.
Something you put on, like, dress and all?
Yes.
Oh, me, one new word for you to work the other day. Antimocracy. You ever hear that term? Anybody know that?
I've never heard that one.
So you never hear that? You're young. Sister Anderson, you would have heard about antimocracy? No?
I've never heard that one. But
they call it runners or whatever.
Yeah, there's some people call it runners, but some people call it daily. And the preacher was talking about the daily on our head.
Well, the preacher should be talking about the word.
Okay, so I'm asking, is it that we need some committees to address these issues? Because I love my conference and I don't ever want to leave, but I think we need to move past where we're at. We've been here for some time now.
Well, I think the church is moving past. So, as I said, the ministerial council met, prayed, studied over a period of time, and we have formulated a position. The Modesty Committee has been doing the public education campaign. Perhaps the COVID had slowed it up. But I think the church is moving past. The church has gotten the message that we spend too many years squabbling about issues when we should be looking at evangelism, growing the church, and moving forward. And another committee preaches up going bureaucracy. But I think my colleague ministers have gotten the message. So we're returning back now. So odds are your church has likely noticed this trend. And we're talking about the millennials have gotten older. Instead of coming with their parents or kids and teens, they are now adults. As a result, they're starting to leave churches and grow up. One millennial is trying to speak out as to why this is happening. And she said that, when she was growing up, well, even in my own family and in your own family, when we were growing up, our parents never left us at home. We couldn't stay home. Our parents ensured that when it was church, we go to church. We used to have to go to church to all Sunday night time because Sunday night in church was a big night, big night, dress-up night. Man all in a tie and jacket and all them things. Now, on a Sabbath morning, when we go into church, my mother have 9 of us, and believe me, everybody has to ready on time. Mama is a kind of person, if mama going somewhere and the function starts 9 o'clock, mama ready for 7. And mama says she's not going to late. So can you imagine when we go into church on a Sabbath morning? Church start 9:30. You just imagine what time we reach a church. And when mama leave the house, mama says she's not leaving anybody behind. And my mother would have said, and she not leave our door open either. Can you imagine? So, if your shoes not put on, your socks not put on, whatever not put on, by the time mama reach on the veranda, have to put on. And mama not going to walk and leave anybody behind. You have to go before her. And in my era growing up, parents used to take their children to church. What happened these days? Parents don't take their children to church anymore. So parents are at church and children are at home. So what obtains is that the adult child now gets to the stage of either the child is in the Gen Z category or the child is in the millennial category. That adult child now, he or she is not going to bother to come to church because they would have lost the zest, the momentum, in coming to church from during that period of time. And so it still continues. And the survey shows that one of the reasons why, a lot of millennials or even the Gen Zs are not really interested in the church is because the parents allow them to make their decisions of when they want to come to church. So now they become an adult. They either make the decision to either go to church or not going to church. Let me see if I can just push ahead. A common reason why millennials aren't interested in going to church as previous generations who comes down to how they were raised. Older generations, well, this is what I was saying earlier. Older generations were much more likely to make religion and going to church a strict part of their routine, including taking their children with them. Boomers and Gen X often had different work schedules. I was just telling that earlier. Worked longer hours, spent more time going to their children's activities, and had to deal with more single parents and 2 working parents household. As a result, these 2 previous generations often felt too tired to always attend. And they also were much more lenient with their kids, often letting the kids make the choices such as not wanting to get up early, on a Sabbath or a Sunday morning to go to church. This has created a trending habit of less attendance among millennials as they've grown. Millennials' church attendance habit growing up weren't as like, their parents. And the statistic says only 29% attend service regularly with their family growing up. Talking about millennials. 32% never attend church with their family while growing up. So if you never used to attend church with your family, now you're an adult, the likelihood that you suddenly have this burst of energy to attend church is not going to be there. You know what I mean? Not that the Holy Spirit can't inspire, but it was not instilled in you. So somebody would not have to go to you, evangelize, and get you on that path. 27% of millennials attended Sabbath or Sunday school regularly. As stated before, this change in attendance between young millennials and seniors is largely to blame on the culture in which they were raised. A few statistics shows and so on. And I have the statistics here, but in the interest of time, I want to move quickly to a point that says, understand how millennial give. And a lot of church folks would want to hear this. Believe it or not, millennials are considered one of the most giving generation. However, they don't have as much money to give. Did you know that? Young people between the age, Maxine, 24 and 40 don't have the money to give. Why, Randy? Because this generation buy flashy cars. This generation between 24 and 40, they're going to want a car, a Range Rover, Audi, Porsche, what else? Benz and so on. They don't have the cash to buy it, so what? They have to get to the bank. Car loan is expensive, mortgage is expensive, family and so on. This generation live lavish lifestyle, the majority. And so the survey shows that the majority of them don't have it to give. However, they still give in other ways, like, all right, let me just read it. So, however, they don't have as much money to give. This isn't holding them back from giving. What they can, though, the biggest thing is they don't want to give to just any non-profit, including church. The organization they chose to support have to be meaningful to them. So if your church isn't working with causes that are important to them, they are less likely to give, less likely to not only give, but to attend as well. Young people want to go to a church where there's purpose, where there is vision, Maxine, where there is program, where there is progress. Young people don't want to go to church. You know one word in chaka chaka? You don't know those words. And the tongues me are speaking and Mark and Michelle. You don't know the word chaka chaka, Mish? And the spirit me now. I go up, Mama says she don't want to chaka chaka, please. I'm getting straight. So young people want to go to a church that has programs and visions and leadership. All right. So it says millennial give 11% of all charitable giving, despite accounting for 25% of the population. This is just money. 84% of millennials donate to charitable organization, while 59% of Gen Z, the 24-year-olds up, and the 72-year-old boomers do. Millennials prefer to give online. How? Online. Millennials prefer to give online and have helped online giving increase by 7.2%. Maybe one of the reasons why we're not collecting more offering and tithes is that because we're not online. People want to transfer their tithes and an offering. Nobody wants to go into the bank like myself Nobody don't even want to go into the machine. So people want to pay their tithes and their offering online. A young lady reached out to me some time ago to say, Pastor Darren, I want to plant a seed into the church at Shooters Hill. How can I make that? I was so embarrassed, Maxine. I was so embarrassed because, as you know, we're transitioning from one account to the next. Maxine, the brother at JMMB, so we should have the account up. He promised today that the account will be up and running within a day or so. And the young lady said, do you have Cash App? That's where the church need to go. So Maxine can stay up there. Sorry? Yeah, it's not here in Jamaica. But I would love Maxine to sit on her veranda and say, oh, I'm going to pay my tithes on Thursday. You know, do it online. All right? So, due to employment issues and higher accounts of debt, as I was saying earlier, millennials prefer to give in different ways. Only 29% of them actually prefer donating money. Others would rather give food, clothing, and other useful supply. They also prefer volunteering. The shift isn't just about finance either. A change in how to give is stemming from too many news stories about charities misusing money, donation, and so on and so on and so on. I want to run on. So we have to find a way. Let me see if this part is important. Well, everything is important, really, but all right. So it's a statistic just gives you the breakdown of how millennials help thing there. So while you've gained some valuable insight through all of these statistics about millennials, it doesn't hurt to know some more general information about them. After all, the better you understand this vital generation, the easier it will be to attract them to your church. And here are a few things that you can use to attract the millennial. The young people today, the studies show that they want a church that is community-oriented. What kind of church? A community-oriented church. Listen, they want a more community-oriented church that focuses on action and example, not just preaching. They want a church that don't only come and speak tongue from morning till night and there's no interpreter. Right? The millennials of today, the young people of today, they are seeking for a church that is community-oriented. The generation carries larger amount of debt than previous generation and so on and so on. That's not the point I want. So we have to show, the key thing is showing the millennials that the church is different, right? Millennials are highly engaged online. 75% share online contents regularly, blogs and so on and so on, right? 90% of millennials have smartphones and 93% of those use it to look for things online, including church. 78% of millennials prefer buying expenses versus goods and so on and so on. So sometimes they really don't have the money because they do a lot of online shopping. All right. So 5 quick ways as we wrap up. You can evangelize or look at the millennials. The millennials want to find a way of giving back to the church community. And as I was doing the research and I was thinking, I was saying this thing is so true. Our friend, Juves, our Juve, our sister Juve. Juves are my friend, so I can call her name. Juve comes alive. Juve is very talented. But Juve has a passion for the feeding program. One of the feeding programs that we have here was initiated by Juve. Juve will come and say, Pastor, no, she said, call me Vanji. So Vanji, even if I'm alone, going to spend the money, provide the money, I want this program. If you want to see Juve come alive and happy and energized and energetic, is when she starts her feeding program to the community. So she gets her team and she go on and them cook. And you see them serve all 50 people in the community and people downtown. This is what young people want to do. They want to find something in the church to do. They want to feel a part. They want to have a purpose. So we say millennial, they meet, you meet them online. So the church has to take the gospel of Jesus Christ online through live streaming. The church has to have a social media presence. The days of writing letter cut out. When last anybody inside I got to the post office? Maxie, you still got post office? Yeah. Right? So every church must now be interested in going online. Every church now needs a social media presence. This is where the young people are. We're not going to get them come out to church on a Sabbath. 25 years ago, the church on a Sunday evening, inside the church jam-packed, and every window full of people are looking. These days, people have options. Those days, people never used to have cable TV and so much smartphone and internet and so on. In some rural community, the church was their only means of entertainment. That does not happen anymore. You put on a crusade here in Shooters Hill or wherever, you go and walk the community, maybe you can get 20, 50 people, 15 people to come out. And so you find that what is happening now is that you have a crusade and you have preached to the church, if you're not careful. So the church has to now look at the method. You know what I mean? You have to look at the method. How do we evangelize the 213 million young people? Remember, the American population, I said earlier, is about 306 or 305 million. Of that demographic, of that population, 213 million people are between the ages of 6 and 40. And I want to believe that the same obtained here in Jamaica with the 2.8 or 3 million people. How do we find a way as a church to reach them? We have to go into the social media. Instagram. Young people, Tony, and don't even too like Facebook again, not true? You're not going to find young people, the Gen Zs and some of the millennials on Facebook. It's old people like we. That's where you go. You're going to find the younger demographic on Instagram and Telegram. You're going to find them in Snapchat. TikTok. Should Maxine come on church on TikTok? The church, you have to go where they are. This is where they are. TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook to a lesser extent. So the church has to maintain a social media presence. Use the social media to promote the gospel, the WhatsApp, you know. So this is what the young people are looking for, you know. The young people want that church that has its website so they can look on the church website, be proud of them church. Oh, you can visit my church on www.shootershill.com. You know? Oh, you can visit my church on COG Shooters Hill. Young people want to be engaged, and so we have to find them where they are. Right? The church has to host events designed by and for millennial members. Create church programming that address millennials members' interest. Right? If you're going to grow the church. And finally, the church, listen to this, what the studies show. thank millennial members for their involvement. So no longer people get involved in church and nobody call them to say, I want to thank you for your ministry today. Like, for example, Zerisha, she danced on Sabbath. My duty is to send her a text message, as I had texted her to say, Zerisha, I want you to do this on the program this week. At the end of the day, my duty should have been to text Zerisha and say that it was a powerful ministry. I do it sometimes. I'm not sure if I did it on the weekend, but Jay will know. In the technical team, I always tell them on the praise team, but I love the ministry today. It was excited. I'm looking forward to next week. Millennial wants to be appreciated. You don't take them for granted. You know, they want to be involved in the church, but they don't want to be taken for granted. Listen to some of the things that millennial wants. They want video announcements. So they don't want KDB to come up here and I read and I say, well, so next week, Sabbath, we'll be having this. They are visual. They want to see it project on the 2 screen or a video thing, project it. You know, that light them up. So social media post, they want to see the church involved in social media and so on. So let us conclude. We're out of time. God is not an option, but God is of necessity. Everybody agrees? So where we started, the key text says, and we're closing, Ecclesiastes chapter 11, 9 and 10, from the Good News Translation says, listen to what it says. Young people, enjoy your youth. Be happy while you are still young. Young people should do what? Enjoy their youth and what? Be happy while they are still young. Do what you want to do and follow your heart's desire. But remember that God is going to judge you for whatever you do. Don't let anything worry you or cause you pain. You are not going to be young forever. You know? You didn't know that? So enjoy your youthful days. All right. So hear what the wise man says again. Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 13. It says, no, all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of men. Deuteronomy 5:7 from the NIV says, you shall have no other gods before me. God is not an option. And sometimes, you know, I find, as I read earlier, that we you know, just for the benefit of those who came in late as we close, listen to what this says. No matter what, we all experience challenging times. But have you ever noticed how often we ask God for help almost at the last resort after we have explored all our options? Anybody else ever done that? You try if you work it out your own way, you spin it all way, you do all kind of thing. And when it now works, you go to God. God's not an option. God is of necessity. And so the study says the older generations are of the view that the younger generation feels this sense of entitlement. And so at a moment's notice, people will just give up on God for just about anything because, Maxine, they think they have option. The millennial, the Gen Zs, they do that. You know, you have to, it's a fragile set. The millennials and the Gen Zs, they are educated. And so they believe because they're educated, they have their bachelors and their masters and their PhDs, and they have their certificate of competence in whatever field they want to train. And so they believe that nobody should speak to them, that shouldn't follow any rules, that they should do as they like. It doesn't work like that. There's rules, there is regulation everywhere. Solomon says, and I apply my heart to seek and to teach out by wisdom, and that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of men to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. As I close, my word of advice to all of us is that let's not take God for granted. Let's not seek to use him when our back is against the wall. Let's not, pray and fast and up into God when nothing can go on. And as soon as God give away a bus, we treat him like, said, sure, go on, build over here, so God. When we're ready, we come link you. But then when we buck with toe, we run to God. Don't treat him like that. Don't treat him like that. All right? Don't treat God like that. I think I want to close with this again. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God. Fear whom? And keep his commandment. For this is the whole duty of man. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, 9, and 10. GNT again. Young people, enjoy your youth. Be happy while you're still young. Not take up too much on your head. Be happy. You're still young. Because after you start to have children and so on, life will change. That's like a Tony. Yeah, man. You get more responsible. All Poochie could have gone all about the place for Omar go do fishing. Out to see a fish all night and taking nothing. In Poochie, he used to go all night go fish with Omar, but here comes the baby, you can't go again. Or they can still run up and down, go all over the place. But the day will come in order to go have a baby and a husband. So whilst you have the time, enjoy life, but remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Am I right, Mish? Because you can't do what you used to do again, Michelle. You have baby type of foot. That's how you go. Sister Ermin can go back on the market now because Joshua and Jody, passed, so she can go dance again. I mean party, but you know what I mean? So we looked at the generation, we look at what's happening, where the young people are not willing to go back to the office space. They want to work at home. We looked at the fact that younger people don't want to come back to church. They want to stay in the online space. And the truth is, a lot of pastors, a lot of churches are saying they are not seeing most of their members. They're not online. They don't know where they're going. They didn't know that since the pandemic, the church scatter. Enough people. The pandemic showed up enough people. You thought some people were rooted and grounded. They were on the surface. You're not seeing them online. I'm not talking about shooters. I tell you what is out there. The pastors are telling you they're not seeing their members. They're not coming to church. They're not seeing them online. So the Shooters Hill Church has to be a 21st century cutting-edge church. The Shooters Hill Church has to be a church that caters to the Gen Zs, the Gen Ys, the Boomers, the Elders, and all demographic. We as a church have to sit down and look at our programs, tweak what we need to tweak, fix up the online thing, be more active in social media. We need some young people to operate the church's Instagram page. We need the young people. We need you to use your space, your tool to evangelize to your colleagues at work, your colleagues at school. That is where the world is heading. So, don't you ever dare think that because you have reached, that you no longer need God. You just need Him. Nobody's entitled. From me go down. Nobody in the world is entitled to anything. Fear God. Keep His commandment. For that's the whole duty of men. I thank you for your time. Nobody upon line has something to me tonight, Maxine. Nobody. And I hope I'm not. Yeah, but I think it was a good discussion still, from my perspective. And I think they enjoyed it, and I want to thank everybody online for sharing. Good news, the Prime Minister has revised the protocol. So the curfew now starts at 9 p.m., effective Thursday of this week, 9 p.m. Thursday night. It's moving up from 8 to 9. Today is 8, so we're late. We have to move now. And I can't afford to go up in a truck. So the curfew, as of Thursday, is now 9 o'clock. On Saturday, which is our Sabbath, Saturday evening, it now goes up to 8 p.m. The Sunday part is still 2. It's kind of rough still, but we have to live with it. 2 o'clock is 2 o'clock. But the good part about it now, 50 people can now be at church. So 50 people can now come to church. And for those who are not yet married, like Odette and Javal and Dave, 50 people can now go to a wedding. Or the body and clap. So Sister Eels, if you do one thing again, at 50 are you here? Anyway, as of today, it's still 15, but it's going up to 50. Huh? The new measures take effect Thursday of this week. So Sabbath coming, we can have 50 people in church. No, 50 people, So we're out of time. I'm going to invite you to stand with me. I want to thank all my friends and colleagues online. I want to thank you. So we have Jessica Francis. Hey, Beanie, go. Jessica Francis, Tony Jarrett, Ken Roy. Ken Roy is not in the house tonight. My brother Dwayne, Missionary Winsome, Sister Elizabeth Wilson, Missionary Bean, Maria, Lady Grace Ain, Sister Grace, how you doing? Phyllis Bolt, I know this person from my hometown, Davis. Aldorine Morris, we celebrate a birthday, but last week, belated greetings. Michelle from South Carolina. Wagwan Mish, Keisha, Tanisha Boren, Jessica Francis, Cutie as usual, maximum respect. Dion Brown, Tugard, Phillips Lawrence, Beverly Grant, and there are others. We stream live on the YouTube as well, and anybody who was on that platform. Thank you very much. We'll be back on Sabbath for 12 noon for the Divine Worship Hour. Father, we want to thank you for this evening. We want to thank you for sparing our lives to be in your house. We want to thank you for the discussion that we have had, the conversation as it was built, as we looked at whether or not you're an option. We didn't know prior, and we have concluded that you are not an option, but of necessity. Help us to treat you as same. We looked at the young people, what their desires are, how they are changing the landscape, how the church must adjust to accommodate them, to witness to them. We're praying that as a church, we will adjust our method of evangelism, our method of doing church, and to reach the very last soul. Bless us this evening as we go. Protect us from dangers seen and unseen, from the cruel plans and traps of the adversary. Have your way with us, great God in heaven. So go with us to our several places of abode. We ask that our going home will be incident and accident free. We pray for a good night rest for those who go to work tomorrow, whether they're going to school, for those who will be here in fasting, Lord, for those who do their chores or conduct their business. Whatever we find to do tomorrow, if it's in your will, and we pray that the day will be peaceful, blessed, and productive. If it's your will for us to be here another Tuesday, then let your will be done. Hear my humble prayer. We look to you and we tell you thanks. In Jesus' name. Now may the saving grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, love of God the Father, full fellowship of the Holy Spirit the Comforter, rest, remain, and abide with us all, now and forevermore. Amen. Pleasant night, everybody. God bless. Happy birthday to